What up, man? It's your boy Jay Hatch. You know what time it is. Creative Space Podcast, episode 3. We got my man in the building. I like to call people like him a Swiss Army knife. Does a little bit of everything. We're going to find out about him today. Clap hands one time for my brother, Matty Fingers, y'all. So Matt, man, it's been a while since we've seen each other, had a chance to really chop it up.
Yeah.
If you were meeting somebody for the first time and asked you what you do, how do you describe it to them?
That's an amazing question because my relatives to this day don't even know what I do,
Fact.
right? They're like, what do you coordinate? What is coordinating, right? I have a multi-tiered production company, and within that, I do a multitude of services. I pretty much only talk to people about what I think they need, right? So if I know that they need music production, I don't talk to them about my film production, you know? So it's kind of just gear. It's like almost like nowadays when people apply for jobs, they customize that cover letter for that, right? And then they have the right amount of words to meet the algorithm to then get the, you know, the bot to pick it up and get the job. Exactly. That's basically, I'm the human version of that. Right. I'm Jerry Maguire of hip hop. Okay.
I like that.
That happens to be able to get into multiple situations, whether it be behind the board, on the other side of the booth, coordinating, marketing, whatever it is. So,
yeah, I mean, ever since I've known you, I've known you to have your hands in a lot of different things, whether it be artist management, branding. I think the first time I ever heard your name was when you were in, I believe it was either Scratch or The Source, when you were kind of like including this whole thing about producers and managers and whatever. Just Blaze was involved in that as well. What have you learned over the years that's made you been able to kind of manage those compartmentalized services that you do provide?
Well, the way that I tend to master one thing at a time, right? So I came in as a DJ, right? Master that. Do all the hours on that. Then I became an intern at Blunt and Relativity Records as a teenager. Mastered the art of radio promo, blah, blah, blah. Then I start my own independent label. I won't go through the whole 30 years, but when I was in 96, I was one of the first pioneers of putting out independent hip hop vinyl, right? This is pre-Ruckus, right? Right out the bedroom, bunk bed and all that. But it was figuring out, like taking all of those different skills and then saying, hey, how do we get this artwork done? Well, I saw that done over here. I know Scam and he can do that for me and blah, blah, blah. It was super trial and error. Like none of it was kind of like this flux capacitor, like brilliant genius idea, you know? So now the way I approach things is very in the moment. Like I don't think too far ahead. I think about what do we need to get done right now and create solutions for that.
When you kind of first started, you said you were a DJ. What made you transition to the other like people or job positions? Like what made you want to learn everything?
No one else was there to do it. Right? It was like, here's your rapper. Here's your engineer. Here's the producer. And here's me. Who the hell is going to go ahead and sell these things? Who's running up to Stretch's apartment to go get it played? Who's going to flex? Who's going? Here I am. And me, obviously, like I know how when I walk in a room, I know how to like switch the lingo up.
Of course.
You know what I mean? Like so it's, you got Matt Fingers and then you have Matthew Schilt. And then Matthew Schilt, we go ahead and we get things. We talk money, right? Matt Fingers hangs out with Cool G Rap and FT a little too much. Right? So that's pretty much what that was. But I had this pure passion of creativity though that came from my mother. Like my mother's a fashion designer, right? For many years. And that's a whole other podcast. But she would just teach me to be free within my creativity, you know? So I would see Evil D on Crooklyn Dodgers in the elevator going this, and I would see Ali Shaheed with the, and I'm like, I was just infatuated. DJ Muggs with the Cypress Hill. I didn't even know how it worked, bro. Like my first turntables, I still had the thick rubber mat, right? And I'm cutting Akinelli the Bomb on this rubber mat. And I'm going, Ma, the turntable's broken. It's not doing what it's doing. And then I go to Sam Ash and they're like, dude, you gotta use the slip mat, right? So I put the slip mat on there. And then what happened was I was more of a vocal person. So DJing didn't really allow me to express myself. So that's what got me into rapping at the time. But yeah, I leave that. That's hung up on the wall somewhere. I know you used to rap too. So.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I feel like anybody who's anybody in this game started off as a rapper, and we lived through vicariously through our clients.
Yeah.
But I think at the end of the day, though, when you've learned and mastered, to your point, all these different areas within the music industry, all these different facets, you not only become more reliable, not only do you become somebody who can't get kicked out of certain rooms, but it really gives you a much better overview of like where everybody's coming from, where everybody wants to go. So I would assume that helps when you're talking to clients and trying to get things accomplished.
For sure. I mean, I used to look at it as a deficit when I was younger.
Okay.
Because I always envied the person that could walk in a room and say, I manage Chris Brown. And that's the end of the conversation.
Yeah.
Right? Me, I was like, where do I, even when you ask me, I'm like, where do I start?
Yeah.
But what happened was, what I learned is that I always had to adapt. So when I first started, it was like, you put out records, the market gets saturated. What do? All right, I'm a production coordinator. All the things I did for myself, I'll do for blah, 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 Norway or Japan and Germany.
Yeah.
Then I became a master coordinator, and it kept producer manager, and then producer manager, artist manager. And you look up and you're like, wow, I do all of these things. And I 30 years, you're able to master a lot of them. But I looked at it like, man, isn't it nice just to be a rapper? Like Kool G Rap, like that's all he does. But now I'm learning that the real value is the adaptation.
Yeah.
Right? Because when these guys can't rap anymore, or they're cold, that's it for the money.
Right.
They don't know how to even manage themselves.
Right.
Not to knock them, I'm just,
No, it makes sense. I'm assuming relationships have played a humongous part in your growth and development.
Big time.
Who are some of the people that you can really kind of highlight along the way that stood out, that either gave you some, those things that just stick in the back of your brain, that really stick with you on a day-to-day basis and you carry through your career?
I would say, well, as a teenager, seeing Irv Gotti as DJ Irv.
Okay.
That dude hustled. Whether people like him, they don't like him, that's neither here nor there.
Facts.
That dude was on his shit. Hype Williams would go ahead and have his video shoots with whoever, and then Irv and Ja Rule and Mike Geronimo would piggyback off of these things, and they just do whatever they needed to do. So I learned how to hustle by watching. It wasn't, Irv would drop an occasional gem, but it was more like watching. Right? Steve Lobel at Relativity.
Of course.
He's the first guy I saw walk into an office in a meeting with like a snorkel on, right? And I was like, man, I want to do that. I don't want to wear the suit and tie. I want to wear the North Face 3/4 Averex. I want to do all of that. So, and I was watching, he's like, talks like us.
Yeah.
Like we're New Yorkers, right?
Yeah.
I said, okay, so he showed me that you can be you in this game and be successful.
Right.
But same thing, watching as a teen. I didn't actually get to ask him a million questions till later.
Yeah.
Kanye West, I would say, dropped some of my favorite gems to me privately that changed not only my professional life, but my personal life.
Okay.
And I'll be super brief with that. But so my mom was doing some fashion work for him. I had coordinated his first feature overseas in 2002.
Okay.
And then, so my mom's no filter. I'm not gonna lie. She's a Brooklynite, like, hi, how are you? And just get super nosy, right?
Yeah, it's all up in your business.
I'm like, oh my God. I was like, don't fuck up the money, please. So she goes, are you humble? And I'm like, fuck, here we go. And he goes, no. He said, I'm gracious. He said, I'm grateful for everything I have on this earth, but I only have 100 years here, and I'm not dimming my light for anybody. Now, for me, that meant a lot, because I think about all the years. How many years did I dim my light as a teenager in high school, making somebody else feel more comfortable?
Yeah.
How many years did I say, no, I'm just, this is all I do, and I'm just play back here, and you rappers go up here. And it was constantly like, And then one day you're like, what for? They're not even doing it anymore. Like, why am I continually doing that? And it's that I learned a lot from that moment, or like the language that you use from him, instead of saying I have to, saying because I want to, and before The Secret and before,
Yeah.
But yeah, Sha Money too,
Of course.
giving me books. He gave me Deepak Chopra books, and it's not just because they're named people. These were people we all came up together. We're all like similar ages, not Steve, but
I'm a little closer to Steve.
Yeah, I'm like 10 away, right? But a lot of these guys, we were teenagers together.
Yeah.
So it's like kids learning from kids. There was no Russell Simmons for us.
It's interesting you say that, because Steve always makes sure he tells everybody about who helped him get to where he is. Like whenever you ask him a question, like, so how'd you get started in the music industry? He'll give you the Russell Simmons, the Jam Master Jay, the Fat Joes, the Noris. He'll just tell the story all the time. And I really think that that's amazing because I don't think we give enough back to the people that actually help us out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like people, and it's interesting because a lot of same people that you've been inspired by, as have I. Steve LaBelle, somebody who I met, he introduced Nipsey to me for the first time at the One Stop Shop conference at Shaw's joint.
Yeah.
So like, we get privy to certain things because of where we position ourselves in these relationships. So I think that's an even bigger conversation. Like, it's a great thing to have the relationship, but how do you position yourself within the relationship to make it beneficial to yourself and to that person as well?
I think it's learning when pick your spots to communicate. Like I learned as a teenager the wrong way sometimes. Like you're just like, I remember specifically being in this car with, it was BJ Irv and I was in the back seat and they were rocking like some South shit, right? And I'm in the back laughing. They're like, what the fuck are you laughing at? And I was like, we're New Yorkers. We rock out to Gangstar and MOP or whatever. What's this? He was like, man, this is some real shit, blah, blah, blah. And it was embarrassing at that moment for me because it was like, why did I do that? But I'm 18, but it stuck in my head since that point of like, you're in a room, soak it in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like sponge what people are saying to you, but so there's a part of me that's like, man, where was the mentor when I needed it?
Yeah.
Like, but the great, where I'm grateful for is that I'm still here able to learn, that I was able to, another day, that you didn't just like do something stupid to get yourself kind of like, I won't say blacklisted or pushed out, but it was never to that point, But that's that. And I would say there's a lot of people too along the way that people don't know.
Right.
That come along and help. They don't really get the recognition because they're not those, cool or whatever.
People,
But Scott Chappie gave me my first gig at Blunt.
Okay.
He also fired me from interning because the mailroom hated me. But, so.
Seems like you've covered a very wide array of different things in your career.
Yeah.
From label intern to manager to coordinator to all these different things. What did you feel like was your most passionate part of all that? Like, was there one area you really wanted to spend more time in? Was it about learning the whole process? What was like, where was your passion lying?
Coordinating. This is not a thing, but I'm really good naturally at taking this, putting it together and creating this. Or I enjoyed connecting people. And I became addicted to it. So when we went, my guy Tommy T in Norway would call me and go, Matt, I love what you did with Mos Def and Mike Zoot and and High Tech. He was like, can you do that for my Norwegian rappers? So when you start hearing a different language on these things, and then you're able to take trips.
Yeah.
So I'm getting to go to the festivals. I'm meeting people I have friends from different countries. And I was like, I want to keep doing this. I want Japanese friends. I want German friends.
Right.
I was like, guys that I still talk to this day is from that time period and from that just pure, natural, like, passion to do. I would say that. Yeah.
Especially when it starts to translate into different countries, into different places. Like your name rings bells in these areas, and you don't even know about it. And this is all prior to like social media being even popular.
Dude, I don't have any pictures. I have like 3 pictures. All right. 2002, man. I think, is when I really started taking a camera with me. But before then, man, we were too cool for school. We sucked.
Well, let's talk about it a little bit, because you've been somebody who has documented a lot of your travel, your journey. What made you want to start doing that, and what was always going to be the end result for that?
That came from not doing it.
Okay.
So that came from like going, man, I don't have that. Like with Eminem at the rap convention in Culver City, where he first was battling, and I was there with Sean Crazy, and we had nothing. Like with us showing us that we were there.
Right.
And then so years of that, and then when you think studio is gonna happen forever, like you're just in these sessions at Unique and Power Play and Right Track and Quad, and it's just gonna last forever. And one day you're not in there.
Right.
And I'm going, man, I want to create community again. I miss community. D&D Studios was community. I said, in one room is Alchemist. In the next room are the Beat Miners. In the next room is Premiere. And Freddie Fox is beating somebody up in the next room. I want to recreate, well, besides Freddie Fox, I want to recreate that.
Right.
So I was like, 2011, I'll keep it as brief as I can. 2011, I went up for a job at Warner Brothers for A&R, right? I'm thinking my resume is good. I just want some healthcare and some biweekly checks, right? Went in there with a suit on, had a Bieber record. I still didn't get the job, right? And I was like, man, I was sitting in my car and I was like, fuck else am I gonna do?
Right.
You know, I was like, what do you want from me to have Michael Jackson come out? You know what I mean? Like, what do you want from me? And I said, you know what? I need to get out the city. And my friend said, come to DC. I had gas money in my car. I went to DC. No Instagram at the time. Bink sees that I'm in DC from Twitter, right? Says, hey, why don't you drive? I'm only 2 hours, blah, blah, blah. Then Knotts sees I'm with Bink. Says, hey, why don't you? So it became the red line Indiana Jones thing. And Focus, our guy Focus, he said, Matt, what you're doing is dope. He said, are you documenting? And I was like, nah, I don't have a camera. I have a BlackBerry. He went in the back room and gave me a Samsung camera, like this big, and said, here, now go document. And I said, what? For me? I retraced, because I only did a few steps at that. I retraced those steps, no big deal.
Yeah.
And then I did the whole Eastern Seaboard, the Midwest, the West. I started taking my mom around. And my guy, El Timo, said, Matt, you're doing the human experience. And I was like, well, what do you mean? He was like, no, you're bringing it back to this. And you just drove 3,000 miles to my house. Because I was pissed off because Bink would never send me the beats he would play for Jay-Z.
Right.
I was like, but if I drive to your home,
you're
going to let me hear the real shit you have on your hard drive. Right? So that was one of the first inspirations. But overall, I did that for like 11 years. And then the pandemic, and this is the big part of it, is my son was born in January of 2019. I just lost another job, right? Only thing that responded back to me was the VP of admissions at Full Sail University. He goes ahead and says, hey, why don't you come down here and teach music business? I was like, great. I go down there. He said, you don't have a bachelor's. You can't teach here. But take a tour of the school while you're here. I only had 2 years in college at the time. And I took the tour. Everything I needed for my film, screenwriting, editing, animation, was there. They said, oh, we could get you a living expense check. I was like, oh, I can take care of my son? Okay. I could take care of this film I've been working on? Okay.
Yeah.
And it was a big sacrifice because now I'm in Florida and my son's just born.
Yeah.
So I'm not seeing him as much. Then the pandemic hits. And then I'm isolated.
Right.
So it's been, there's more to it. I won't take up all your time with it. But I'll shout out to RZA specifically, who talked to me and gave me a master class in film for 40 minutes after a Wu-Tang De La Nas show in Jacksonville and pretty much laid up my one sheet for me. And I was like, so the path, I mean, you know, like even Kuti and Chike, 20 years they had Kanye's footage.
Right.
Sitting on hard drives. And then one day the stars aligned.
Right.
So it's kind of like,
it's all about timing.
Yeah. You just have to stay the course.
What do you think is the, you know, when you think back on your career, what do you feel like is your greatest accomplishment to date?
I think on paper, it would be producing the first hip hop show at Lincoln Center with Jay-Z and the Roots.
Okay.
I was one of the 3 people, and I got to perform, and Large Professor brought me out.
Nice.
And I cursed, and I was like, oh my God, my mom's in the crowd. And that was when you're ignorant and young. And then even Talib's mom, like everybody's mother was just like, oh my God, you know? I was like, have you never seen Onyx? You know?
Right.
But that was at least on paper. But really my greatest accomplishment was how many people's homes and lives and families I affected. And how many Rent Just Blaze will tell you, or this one will tell you, and that one will be like, hey, my rent needed to get paid. Matt found a way.
Yeah.
Sean Price, God bless him, he needed his, Bernadette will tell you, his rent needed to get paid. I'm calling my guy overseas for a quick job. It might not be money out my pocket, but I'll go find it.
Yeah.
So I'm still to this day.
That's crazy. So let's switch tracks for a second and talk about your artist Kumbaya and what kind of work you guys have been putting in over the last couple of years. Where's she from? What did she do? How did you find her? What made you want to pull the trigger to work with her?
So she's from Laurelton, Queens.
Okay.
Right? She's a rapper, singer, drummer, poet, really just a naturally great musician. You know, she'd be hard on herself and tell you, well, I need to improve that.
Yeah.
Yes, but she's dope, right?
Okay.
And so I got a phone call one day from my guy Stackwell, right? He's one of my closest friends. He said, Matt, who's this Kumbaya chick, right? And I'm like, oh, that's my people, Kelsey and Sean J. Period. That's their people. I said, she's super cool. He said, yo, did you see that video where she's walking down the alley with the girl with the arm around the thing? I said, yeah, that shit is fire. Now, mind you, at the time, I was checked out.
Yeah.
I'm doing NFTs. I'm doing all sorts of other shit. Like, leave me alone with rappers and music business, you know? And he said, well, I have an imprint at Def Jam. He said, you want to do this together? I said, wait, hold up. You're telling me I get to work with one of my closest friends. Wait, there's an infrastructure. We get to do music we like. You mean I could call up High Tech and I could call up Knots and I could call up Word? Fuck, I don't want to do this. All right, God. I said, so we flew out, me, Kumba, and Kelsey, we flew out to LA.
Okay.
So it was with Stat and Siege Monstrosity, and we're in Chalice. Siege is my guy, right? Because Siege did the records in the beginning, right? So we're in there.
Siege Monstrosity, good guy, man.
Shout out to Siege. We have long life talks all the time. And what's her, Hit Boy comes in.
Okay.
And then, so now we're all sitting there, and so now it's real, you know? And then for about 6 months or whatever it was, we did independent, you know, recording with all the producers, and I'm learning her.
Yeah, of course.
So I'm going, what beats does she gravitate towards? What is she? Now, we kind of gave like a hands-off approach initially. Like, let Kumbaya spread Kumbaya's wings.
Of course.
Right? And then I started noticing, I said, nah, Kumbaya needs to be produced. Like, really produced, right? So hence, that's when I went ahead and said, hey, Havoc, you know, I don't want just beats. He was like, what do you envision? And I would give Havoc the vision of what I had in mind. And we had violin players coming in, doing all this, Scram Jones. And I said, no beats, like productions. Like, she's not what you think she is. Just when you think you know what Kumbaya is, you'll hear another song where it's just a whole soulful Erykah Badu type joint. And then all of a sudden she's got this thing that just needs to be molded.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like, so I'm having fun like a kid in the candy store, because I chose, like, when I heard her, I stopped writing any rhymes. I don't care if they were just for casual play at home. I was like, what for? I was like, she's incredible.
Yeah.
Fuck am I rapping for?
Yeah.
You know, I was like, I'm not jumping off stages, and whatever I did. So as I'm doing that, I'm kind of like, I treat it as if it's the last thing we're ever doing. So, like I was telling you about Organized Noise and Marley Marl, and like, I'm in that studio with Marley. Like, that was top 3 studio experiences I've ever had.
Wow.
House of Hits, right? I'm in there going, I'm hearing the drums. He had the Lou Donaldson drums going. I'm like, oh, dope. And I'm like, go ahead. I said, go ahead, baby. I said, Jinglin' Baby was just stuck in my brain. And then Marley looks at me, he's like, go ahead. He's like, I said, you got that? I said, you have LL stems? He's like, yep. I said, what? I said, so now I'm a kid in the candy store, because I said, you literally have every record you ever did stemmed out in your computer. So now I'm going, bam, bam, bam. I was like, wait. You have Kane set it off? He's like, just the guitar. He's like, yeah. I said, I want to do like, bam, 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 bam. Go ahead, baby. And I was like, now I'm doing a hybrid LL Kane, Lou Donaldson.
But you're bringing this production together, like
I'm
executive producing almost.
Dude, I'm totally outer body at this point, because I'm literally
You're floating above yourself in the room,
Because I'm not thinking that's Marley anymore. I'm just thinking it's another creative person. I need to get this shit done and do it right.
Yeah.
And Marley's like, well, you're that confident. Well, we're gonna rock. And then my guy Tommy T's real close with Marley, and then Steve, and set it up and all that. So the vibe was already comfortable. But for me, I'm producing a record right now at the House of Hits with Marley.
The greatest producer, one of the greatest producers of all time in hip hop, if not the best.
And she's killing it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? A top 3. The Organized Noise is one of the other 2, and then like, I don't know the third one yet.
Yeah. telling you, it's crazy. You look back at everything you accomplished, and there's got to be a sense of gratification. I know a lot of times, we chase for validation.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of new artists and new creatives have a hard time understanding the balance between going out and getting it versus focusing on self and just putting great music and great content together where they don't necessarily need anybody else's. They don't need validation. It's going to come to them because of what they're doing. They're great. So, one last gem, man, just for anybody who's looking to get into being an artist or a creative, what can you give them as an overview for just that one thing you tell them?
I think it's sometimes the talent is, yes, but it's the mental and emotional part that's really important.
Right.
To kind of stay away from cross-comparing, right? We do it all the time.
Yeah.
I used to cross-compare myself and go, I gotta do it like Steve.
Right.
I gotta be up in the morning. I ended up in the hospital with pneumonia and all that. It was meant for him to do what he does. It wasn't meant for me to do that. It was constantly I kept saying subconsciously, I'm not enough.
Right.
Because family can do that to you too, where they're just like, oh, that's great. You got a 90, you get a 95, right? So my whole career was being very, not to have a therapy session right now, but it was being very mean to your younger self. It was never enough.
Yeah.
So people are like, no, Matt, you're killing it.
Yeah.
I go, nah, I have an apartment, but I don't have a home.
Yeah.
I have this amount, but I don't have that. I have a kid, but I'm not married. It was always this. So finally, after all the years, you think it's really important to celebrate where you are.
Yeah.
Right? Even right now, whether you have $1 or whether you have, right now, nobody would know. Do I have $1 on me or do I have $1 million?
Yeah.
Man, smile.
Yeah.
Smile. Life is, I think, and you can attest to it. I was like, we both, in and out the hospitals and all of that. It gives you a sense of appreciation. You don't stress over certain things that aren't worth that you used to stress over.
Right.
And I think that it's just, and then seek, if you have healthcare, get healthcare, and then within that, call them up and ask them for a network of therapists that you can get for free if you have that type of healthcare. And speak to somebody, because this game is not, especially with social media, it's not for the weak.
Yeah. No, it's agreed. That's a great point, because I think a lot of times, even as entrepreneurs, there's never really a sense of accomplishment, right? Yeah. We get to a certain level and we're just like, okay, what's next, right? There's never, because we all have those aunts and uncles, and so how's that little music thing going on? You know what I mean? I got to send them links and articles and things to me after 25 years of doing this shit. You know what I mean? So I get that. I get that. Where can people find you, man? What can I get you online if they want to pick your brain or maybe potentially use you for any of your services? Instagram is at Matt Fingaz, MattFingazBoc. Okay. Right? That's the main, you hit me there. Facebook is Matthew Schilt, but I'm not going to add you if you're just personal. Come on. And then, TikTok, I'm not going on that every day, and that's just to look at NBA highlights and, whatever. But I would say, and if people reach me on there, then and it's serious, then I'll give you my email, and then they can go ahead and send me whatever. But I think I'm more looking for not what sounds great. I'm looking for the right people to, there's a guy named Shame Gang. Right? I told him, I said, I like your song and I like this, but it's you. It's like you're investing into people who are ambitious, inspired, who don't really take no for an answer, who believe in themselves. Yeah. Their energy's infectious. To me, 10 years from now, we could be doing some whole other thing. Yeah. Shout out to Big Twin too, because he's another guy like that. Yeah. And we talk about things that have nothing to do with 16 bars. Yeah. And that's what I like to be around. That's when you know the real. Exactly. My man, appreciate you coming out. Always a great conversation. We out of here, man. My man Matty Fingers just came through, blessed with some gems. Creative Space Podcast, episode 3.